Welcome to Spirits Podcast, a boozy dive into mythology, legends, and folklore. Every week we pour a drink and learn about a new story from around the world. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Julia. And Amanda, I want you to come on a journey with me into our mind palace.
Always, Julia.
I want you to picture yourself in the Welsh countryside.
Okay, I've ridden through it on the train from London to Cardiff. It was beautiful.
It's winter. It's cold out there. But inside your home, there's a warm, crackling fire that you are sitting beside. I know you no longer celebrate, Amanda, but picture it's Christmas time. So you've got your boughs of holly and pine. You got your Christmas tree in the corner. You're all cozied up. Maybe wrapped in a nice blanket. You have a cup of tea. Maybe you're reading a nice book by the candlelight.
Now, I bet nothing bad is going to happen because I am so comfortable.
As the sun begins to set, you hear a knock at your door. You grumble and you get out of your nice cozy blanket and you go to the door. Maybe it's snowing outside a little bit, but that's not the first thing that is apparent to you when you open the door.
Okay.
No, the first thing that comes to your mind is the inhuman figure standing in your doorway. It is tall, taller than you are, draped in white linen robes that have probably seen better days, and its face, its head, is a horse's skull.
Why would you do that to me, Julia? Why would you jump scare me like this?
From within the sockets that once held its eyes, glass baubles catch the light of the fire within your home and flash as if alive.
That's worse than no eyes.
Red ribbons are tied to its body and skull, streaming in the winter wind as though hair or something far more grotesque.
Why would you remind me of intestines?
You stand there for a moment, staring at this beast, and then you notice the group behind it, propping it up. And that, Amanda, is when the music starts.
No!
The group begins to play a jaunty tune, bobbing the grim horse-headed figure in time with the melody. And you start clapping and joining in.
I don't. I'm sorry, I don't.
And this is where the true battle of wits begins, Amanda. The horse-skulled figure and its compatriots sing a tune requesting entry into your home. And you sing back your own rhyming verse, denying them entry, and back and forth it goes until one side eventually fails this epic Welsh rap battle, and either the horse and its crew are sent packing, or you yield and allow them into your home with the promise of food and drink.
And then they eat my soul and I don't make it to another Christmas?
No, Amanda, it's just nice.
This is just a nice, fun ritual?
That, Amanda, is the Welsh wassailing tradition of the Mari Lywd.
Oh, baby. I'm about to learn a lot about this, I bet.
Yes. So the Mari Lywd, which I've heard a lot of pronunciations while researching this episode, this seems like it is the Welsh pronunciation I saw the most, so that's what I'm going with. The Mari Lywd is actually not the name of the terrifying creature that I just described to you, Amanda, but rather the tradition of bringing this horse skull around the neighborhood in what is traditionally described as wassailing.
And so I've heard this word used as a sort of synonym for caroling. Am I in the right neighborhood?
You kind of are. So I am going to give you a little background on wassailing. So wassailing is specifically a practice that is done around Christmas and New Year's celebrations where people go from door to door singing and offering up drinks from the communal wassail bowl in exchange for food and gifts or drinks.
Now,
like other drinks besides what you're drinking from the wassail bowl.
Is this like a communal, extremely pungent punch?
Yes, it is. So, Amanda, you probably our best modern example of wassailing tradition is the song "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," which, the whole thing about like, oh, bring us some figgy pudding and we won't go until we get some. And we're all like, wow, that's kind of aggressive actually for a song.
Oh.
That is kind of the whole vibe of wassailing. But when you're kind of expecting it, it's almost like a Christmas trick-or-treating.
Yeah. Okay. Cute. Sure. I've also, now that you've mentioned it, seen recipes for wassail, so that makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yes, and so like you kind of pointed out, carolers are kind of an evolution from the tradition of wassailing. There's also not just the, hey, we're going to come sing at your door and then you're going to give us treats version of wassailing, but there's another fun version of wassailing, which is definitely not as common in the US at least, where you would go wassailing in orchards, specifically orchards that were used for the growing of apples for cider.
Cool.
Where the wassailers will sing to the trees or recite incantations in order to promote a good harvest for the following year.
Now that seems like a great time. Sign me up for that.
Yes, so you're like, okay, so we all get to like dress up in cute, comfy clothes, and we all get to go out to the orchard, and we all get to drink from this bowl, and then hopefully we get a good harvest next year.
Like getting pretty drunk and serenading a tree describes a fair number of my weekends.
Yes, I personally think this version is very cute. As cute as the like kind of caroling wassailing is, the idea of like singing to trees is adorable to me. I love a traditional like tree harvest magic tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And this also somewhat ties to the fact that wassail comes from an Old Norse word that means to be in good health or to be fortunate. And wassail as a noun refers to the drink that one would drink as part of that toast.
Great. A thing that I definitely have on my mind around the holidays, the end of the year, the start of a new one.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like your New Year's resolutions, except it's just like everyone be in good health.
Great. Like, yes.
So originally, wassail, the noun describing the drink, was a hot spiced mead. But for a long time, a wassail was either a spiced ale, but nowadays it could be any sort of hot mulled cider, wine, or ale that's flavored with sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, and usually ginger and apples and oranges.
The usual suspects.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes slices of toast are added to sop up the wassail and then be eaten. It's like literally called a sop, which I didn't know was a thing.
I just know the verb to sop up, but dang.
But now there's a noun too. That's a sop is a piece of bread or other thing that you add to a drink that you eat once it is soaked with the beverage.
We have spent many a happy hour, Julia, at a bar begging for a sop, any sop, any French fries, including the overly truffled fries that Jekyll and Hyde Club, may it rest in peace, brought to us. So I'm fully taking this word on.
You know what? I am truly in love with the new girly pop thing of like, we should just get martinis and Caesar salads and fries. I'm like, yeah, that's my dream meal. What are you talking about?
All I want.
That's all I want in life. But in this case and scenario, it's a little bit more seasonal, a little bit more festive, I suppose, than martinis and Caesar salad and fries.
Which is an everyday, evergreen, like classic little black dress of meals.
Yes, the girly pops love it. So I love this. I'm probably talking a lot about drinking right now, but also this is a Spirits podcast episode, baby. So if we're not talking about drinking when we have the chance, what are we even doing here?
Word.
So if we are talking about wassailing, we have to talk a little bit more about the wassail bowl. As the name suggests, the wassail bowl is simply what the wassail is served in.
Now, is it a special one that you save just for this? Or is it sort of someone's biggest mixing bowl that you conscript for the task?
The former, not the latter. So typically the wassail bowl was less of a bowl and more of a goblet. The average wassail bowl would be carved from wood. According to some of the wassailing carols that we still have and sing to this day, and what we have of wassail bowls that have survived since the 1800s, they're typically carved out of maple wood. There are some examples of more ornate ones, like silver ones and stuff like that. That's less common and more hoity-toity upper class, and this is definitely more of a working class kind of tradition here. But there's also these ones that I got really excited about, which are puzzle wassail bowls.
Oh my, is it like a sobriety test that if you can't do the puzzle, you shouldn't be drinking more? Because that sounds really good.
No, it's more of a prank. So they were wassail bowls that had spouts, many different spouts. And the trick was to attempt to drink out of one of the spouts without the other spouts spilling onto you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of wassailing, though, is that one gets to drink from the wassail bowl in exchange for some sort of gift, whether that gift is food, some sort of other beverage, or as we think of around the holiday time, like a real gift. You know what I mean? More of a stocking stuffer, though. You're not giving someone like, an iPad Pro and then getting to drink from the wassail bowl.
More white elephant, less, beloved gift for, a partner.
So basically, the whole tradition of wassailing is that it gives you a reason to celebrate the winter festivities with your neighbors.
I mean, that's great. You brought up trick-or-treating, and that makes all the sense in the world to me, because I was like, what the hell? We light the menorah, put it in the window, you can see it, but you don't come in. But that is a sweet tradition that I can see a community doing.
There's also, it's been a while since we've done this episode, but it does strongly remind me of Biavi. And a lot of winter traditions are around hey, just as a reminder, your community is here if you need something, if you need a drink to help you in these dark times, here we are. We're here to bring you a little joy and a little levity.
And good to check on your neighbors, too. So I think this is really smart.
But before the wassailers and Mari Lywd can actually enter and enjoy the festivities, as I described to you before, Amanda, with you properly freaking out about it, let's talk a little bit more about the crew of the Mari Lywd and how they get inside.
I'm not forgetting about the horse head, and we are going to get to that skull at some point. But yes, let's start with the horse skulls posse.
Yes. So while the Mari Lywd is kind of our focus and definitely the most spirits-coded figure that we're going to be talking about in this episode, it is usually not alone. It's got a posse. You'll often find the Mari Lywd accompanied by a leader of the group, usually someone who is more formally dressed than the others. And sometimes in the tradition of carolers as we know it, having a sort of classic Dickensian look from what I can tell from videos and photos. There's usually the merry men or the merry man, who is the one who is playing the music, which is important for the singing aspect that we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment.
Oh, I thought it was just the happiest one, the jolliest one.
No, he's the merry man because he's bringing the merriment. He's bringing the party. And then there's also the stock puppet characters of Punch and Judy.
Scariest shit in the world, Julia. Scariest shit in the world.
So, Amanda, maybe you can speak a little bit more on this, but this is a thing that I really only vaguely know through consuming English media. And I say that, and I wrote this down, and then I was watching the Santa Claus 2 last night, and they have Punch and Judy as characters doing a puppet show in the background, but maybe you can speak a little to the prevalence of Punch and Judy.
Yeah, I also mostly know Punch and Judy from English folklore and also horror stories, which take, figures like Punch and Judy, which were originally puppets, where the one Punch punched the one Judy, and it just went around as seemingly England's answer to lowbrow humor that wasn't a nativity scene, maybe, but one of those Christian plays that went around, and they're just creepy ass puppets that I have read in more than one horror short story sort of come to life as a spirit of malevolence. This is in the Rivers of London series,
Terrifying.
Specifically by Ben Aronovich, which I love that series so much. I recommended it a bunch on the show. But there is I think in the very first novel, there is a spirit of pandemonium that's channeled through a Punch and Judy.
That's terrifying, and does make some sense. So the Punch and Judy, as you said, kind of a slapstick puppet show that's been around since at least the 1600s.
That's so long.
It was usually some sort of street performance. Usually it would be a traveling troupe would do a Punch and Judy show and then move on to the next town, et cetera, et cetera. And as you point out, it is one of the few not nativity or not church kind of related street performances that would happen out in England and Scotland and Wales. It's also really interesting because the characters kind of are inspired by Commedia dell'arte and the stock characters of that sort of thing. Yes, the begrudging servant and the rich asshole richman, that kind of thing. But they are also this comedy aspect that accompanies the Mari Lywd, mostly to entertain the children of any household that the group ends up visiting.
I mean, good in theory, terrifying in practice, and that's most of folklore.
Yes, that is true. That is most of folklore. So when this whole troupe arrives at a household after singing and playing music all through town, when they finally arrive at your specific door, they do a little call and response thing. So the Mari Lywd and its crew will demand entrance. Then the occupants try to give excuses as to why they can't come in, and it goes back and forth until the people of the household can't come up with any more excuses, and the entire troop is allowed to come on inside to drink and feast. But again, keep in mind, this is a tradition that is known and expected, like children coming to your house for trick-or-treating. So it's not like you would open up the door and be like, what the fuck is this? Who are you guys? What's going on here? What's happening?
I can 100% see myself looking forward to this if it is a thing I am used to and a thing I expect. Must be exciting to like get your home of your own and then like host people for the first time as opposed to being at a parent's house. Like I totally see it. But as usual, Julia, your wordsmithing was too strong. And the beginning of this episode will stick with me.
In my mind, this is kind of like the folklore tradition of baby, it's cold outside. Like it's meant to be coy. It's meant to be playful. Yeah. It's not that people don't actually want to let the Mari Lywd and their troop into their home. It's like, oh, you know, this is the song and dance that we do before you guys come in and we have a nice little night.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, luckily, Amanda, we have some videos of traditional versions of this song.
Okay.
I have one that is from a BBC Wales program from 1966. Would you like to hear/see how it traditionally looked/sounded?
I never wanted anything more than to meet someone from Wales from the 60s.
Hell yeah. All right, I'm about to send it to you.
We're looking like a horse bride.
Mm-hmm.
Wel dyma ni'n dywed, gobeithio'n di niwed, I ofyn am gynad, I ofyn am gynad, I ofyn am gynad, I gynad.
This is more like a bridal of flowers. I don't see the scary red ribbons.
Yeah, sometimes they'll do flowers instead of scary red ribbons. I think traditionally you do scary red ribbons, but sometimes it's flowers.
Oh, I bet someone's grandpa was so excited to be on television.
He probably was.
Welsh is a beautiful language, isn't it?
It really is. I also have another more modern recording of the song, as well as the translation for some of the verses. Would you like to see that one?
All right, I'm clicking.
Wel dyma ni'n dywed, gobeithio'n di niwed. Wel dyma ni'n dywed, gobeithio'n di niwed. I ofyn am gynad, I ofyn am gynad, I ofyn am gynad, I gynni.
Welsh is so pretty sung, especially sung. Welsh as a language is a really beautiful language, but when it is sung, beautiful.
Extremely melodic, and yeah, that's awesome. It also does the thing that I was surprised to find going to synagogue for the first time, of just lots of lines that repeat in a way nobody announced to me, and so I would go to move on to the next one, and I'm like, no, we're saying this again. Now I have the gist all down, but yeah.
Yeah. So the song that we just listened to, here's the song translated from Welsh into English, which is, "Here we come, dear friends, to ask permissions to sing. If we don't have permission, let us know in song how we should go away tonight." And then an example of the response that is provided in the song is, "I have no dinner or money to spend to give you welcome tonight."
Nice.
Which is like me turning down invitations to go drinking when I'm like, ooh, we run a little low on the budget this month.
Not tonight.
Now, Amanda, now that we have those melodic tones in our head, as well as picturing a horse skull singing them to us, I want to tell you a little bit more about the traditions, what happens when Mari Lywd comes to party, and where this horse-headed Christmas horror comes from. But first, we're gonna have to grab our refill.
I need a big sip of the wassail bowl.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hi, everybody. Amanda here. Welcome to The Refill, where I want to especially welcome our newest patron, Leslie. Welcome, Leslie. Thank you to you and to our supporting producer level patrons, Alicia, Ann, Hannah, Jane, Lily, Matthew, Captain Jonathan, Malachi, Cosmos, Scott, Will, and for being supporting producer patrons, and those legends who hold down the Patreon and who make sure we can keep making the show. Bex, Chibi Yokai, Michael, Morgan H., Sarah, and Bam Me Up Scotty. Now, today is December 18th, and I am wearing a white sweatshirt. So this is my recommendation to you. I was told growing up in the silly fashion lessons of the 90s that you're not allowed to wear white between Labor Day and Memorial Day. Screw that. I think you should be wearing unseasonal colors at all times of year. Wear a spring floral print in the winter. Wear like a fuzzy sweater in the summer when you have to be in air conditioning. I couldn't recommend it more. It makes me feel great, and I love that I have a white sweater with a tomato on it here in the depths of the year. Now, there's so much going on here at Multitude as usual, and I have got to recommend that you check out Pale Blue Pod, an astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but want to be its friend, where every single week, astrophysicist Dr. Moya McTeer and a new guest demystify space one topic at a time with open eyes and open arms and an attitude that stuff out there might be overwhelming, but that doesn't mean it can't be cool. I promise Pale Blue Pod will make you feel capable of understanding the universe and like you're a part of it, which, I don't know, that's what I go to podcasts for, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. So go to Pale Blue Pod now in your podcast app or go to palebluepod.com to check out this beautiful show. Folks, we at Spirits have been rolling out some merch improvements. I don't know if you know, but we have a brand new merch store at spiritspodcast.com/merch where we are making things on sale so we can clear out the shelf space and make cool new items. We have many that we are working on. Editor Bren came up with a fantastic idea, so we are going to be pursuing that. I had a couple of cool ideas. Basically, I'm making stuff I want to wear all the time and carry with me, and so I think you will too. But in the meantime, the first of these cool new stickers is the updated Spirits logo sticker, which you can get for a more affordable price than ever before at spiritspodcast.com/merch. And remember, if you live outside the US and before you were like, shit, I don't know, it's expensive to ship internationally, shipping is more affordable than ever. So go on ahead, check it out, start making that list. If you got to wait till the holidays are over, no problem, no stress, we got you. spiritspodcast.com/merch. We are sponsored this week by Aura Frames. This is the #1 digital photo frame as decided by Wirecutter, and it makes it effortless to upload unlimited photos and videos directly from your phone to this digital picture frame. So your favorite memories are always within view for you or a loved one in your life. The best part that I highly recommend as a person whose family lives all over the country is that you can personalize and preload an Aura frame without touching it. You can order it on the Aura website and preload it online. It is honestly, folks, the innovations are here, okay? The cloud is here. They can open the frame and then right out the box have beautiful things on the frame for them. So I love the idea that I can just whenever I take a cool photo of an interesting dog or tree or cloud, put it on the Aura frame that I share with my grandma so that she can see what I am seeing. And honestly, that is the best gift of all. So save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using promo code SPIRITS at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code SPIRITS. And this deal is exclusive to listeners, so get yours now in time for the holidays. Remember, terms and conditions apply. If you are trying to build a creative practice, but things like burnout and confusion are keeping you from getting started or keeping going or reaching your potential, I've got to recommend this excellent podcast, Creative Pep Talk. This is a weekly podcast companion for your creative journey, designed to help unlock your creativity and transform it from a hobby into a discipline. Hosted by New York Times bestselling author, the illustrator Andy J. Pizza. Yes, that is the best name I've said in weeks. And featuring top-tier working artists from a wide array of creative disciplines. I have a feeling if you listen to us, you are going to really, really like Creative Pep Talk. And if you're looking for a place to start, check out episode 401, The Creative Journey Survival Guide, the 3 must-have essentials on Creative Pep Talk, wherever you listen to podcasts. And now let's get back to the show.
Amanda, we are back, and if we're doing a episode on Mari Lywd and wassailing, of course our cocktail for today has to be a wassail. It has to be.
What is the base of the wassail you're making for us today?
Okay, so for a non-alcoholic recipe, your base is going to be mostly apple cider. And also, since we are from the US, we're talking about non-alcoholic cider, which I think outside the US is called cloudy apple juice. But you'll need to add a bunch of spices like cloves and cinnamon sticks and ginger and nutmeg and a little bit of light brown sugar. And of course, you can spike this in order to make an alcoholic version. I would say like maybe some bourbon or a nice spiced rum. But personally, I prefer, if you're going to go for an alcoholic version of the wassail, a red wine-based wassail.
Nice.
I would say you'd want any sort of fruity red wine to be your base. I would say something juicy like a Pinot Noir or a Rioja if you can find it. And then you'll add kind of the similar spices. And it is also worth mentioning, I think, that a lot of the spices in the wassail have symbolic meaning as well. So like stuff like cloves and cinnamon and nutmeg, for example, are all supposed to bring prosperity and wealth in the coming year, which is why they're used for spices. They're also just very warming spices in general. Like when you're drinking it, you're like, ah, yes, I'm feeling warmed from the inside. But also it's got symbolic purpose as well.
Julia, I visited a relative's house recently who had near their pumpkins for like leftover from Halloween. They were just still good. Had, I think, either like a small gourd or an orange studded with clove, which I believe is a deterrent to squirrels and deer so they don't come munching on the gourds.
Correct.
But I was also like, this just feels spiritually powerful and like a thing that should be lying around.
You're like, this is some witchy shit.
That's about right.
And I kind of love it. As we take our sip of our waffle bowl and we get back to talking about Mari Lywd, I just want to go back and forth. I'm going to be the Mari Lywd. You're going to be Amanda from the beginning of this episode.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I just want like 3 good reasons why you can't let me in right now. So let's start with, I'll do the Welsh verse from before, which is, Here we come, dear friends, to ask permissions to sing. If we don't have permission, let us know in song how we can go away tonight. You don't have to sing it, Amanda, but give me an excuse.
I'm very sorry. I wasn't expecting company and my house is not quite clean.
All right. Not a good excuse. Give us more.
I need to go on a grocery run really bad and the only thing in my cabinet is tuna. So that's it.
Tuna pairs great with this red wine wassail.
Oh, no.
Give us another excuse.
I'm allergic to horses.
I have no hair on me. I'm coming in.
Shit.
Those are good ones, Amanda. I like that.
You know, just going with the first 3 to come to mind.
First thought, best thought. Take a sip of the wassail bowl, Amanda. I promise this isn't the rigged one that's going to make you spill all over you.
Thank you. You are saying wassail, but I am hearing waffle. And so now I'm picturing like a dark chocolate dipped waffle bowl with some like mulled red wine in it. And TBH sounds great.
You know what? If it wasn't hot, the wassail,
right,
you could use the chocolate as a layer to keep it like insulated and not get the waffle soggy. That's not the worst idea.
Maybe it becomes a sop. And if like a waffle bowl from an ice cream place, it's served in a paper bowl, then it melts through the chocolate and then sops the sop. And then you eat a red wine soaked waffle bowl, which sounds incredible.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that. That sounds really good.
Sounds great.
Ooh, I made Jake a mocktail the other day because he was like, baby, I want a little mocktail. And so I did chai tea and a maple espresso black tea that we had. And he doesn't like a hot bevy, so I cooled everything down.
Ooh.
Pumpkin spice syrup that I added to my coffee.
Yep.
A squeeze of orange juice, which I was like, that is actually a great idea because like all of those kind of do match well with orange. And then a quarter of a teaspoon of vanilla extract.
Ooh.
Give it a little shake and then strained it and put a little bit of cinnamon on top. And I was like,
yum, yum. Yeah. Good work.
I do my best. I do my best work when I'm not thinking too hard.
Love it.
Let's talk about the Mari Lywd. The first recording of the Mari Lywd tradition actually comes from 1800.
Later than I thought.
However, the origins of the tradition are, of course, debated among academics and scholars. It's also worth mentioning that the tradition does predate 1800. This first written record is talking about how they consider it a immoral practice.
Oh, sure. Lol, it's not pagan. It's fine.
Well, that's the thought, but we'll get into it a little bit more. But probably whoever was writing about it was just a bit of a party pooper and also doesn't like the idea of feasting and drinking.
I also, know that there is a history of the English coming in, kind of wiping out traditions in favor of the Anglican Church. So maybe there was some of that too.
Yeah, probably a lot of that. So there is a folklorist named Yarworth Pete who led the charge in that the tradition was a pre-Christian folk tradition. However, there is very little historical evidence to back that claim up, other than just the assumption that, like a lot of traditions in Wales, as well as in England, Ireland, and Scotland, these come from these pre-Christian practices.
I mean, it's giving maypole, which I know is like not a Christian tradition, even if it's lumped into sort of like Easterish celebrations. So yes. I get the thought, even though as a researcher, you can't just say in your paper, it's giving maypole, like I can here on a podcast.
Yes, you can't be like, I just think it has that vibe with no historical like background to it.
Horse skull, I like your vibe, and it's giving maypole.
Like I said, there's little to no evidence of the various hooded animal traditions, which we will talk about a little bit later. There's no evidence that these predate the 16th or 17th centuries. So the earliest we think it could be is the 16th century.
Mm-hmm.
So chances are it's not as old as scholars like Pete claim they are, but that doesn't take away any of its value or honestly like coolness in my mind.
Yeah.
Folklorists also claim that the name for Mari Lywd is a reference to Mary, as in the mother of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But other folklorists believe that it refers to the Mari Lywd's horse skull head, coming from a term meaning gray mare.
Now, again, not a linguist, but I will say based on vibes alone, I see the skull of a horse with garments. I'm not thinking the Immaculate Conception and the Blessed Virgin Mary. I'm just not.
No.
I am probably thinking, that's a horse whose bones have gone gray from being bones and not a horse anymore.
Also, keep in mind, England and Wales have a lot of mythical horses and a lot of like goddesses that are tied to mythical horses. So Rhiannon, for example, was a Welsh heroine who was strongly associated with horses, portrayed as riding on a shining white horse. And in some of her myths, she is so strong that she carries travelers on her back and is said to have the strength of a horse.
Incredible. Even before you described her as having the strength of a horse, I would say one of the top, let's say 15 hottest names, Rhiannon.
It's a hot one. There's a reason Fleetwood Mac did a song about it.
It's a hot one.
There's also the Gaulish goddess Epona, who was worshipped as the protector of horses and ponies, as well as being a fertility goddess. However, it is much more likely that like horses are just incredibly culturally important to these areas rather than them being inherently tied together. So while our historical reference to Mari Lywd was condemning the practice in 1800, mainly because it was disapproved of by local clergy, of course, the practice gained a resurgence in the mid-1900s.
Oh, were they like World War II's over? Let's go caroling?
So this poem that kind of brought back the popularity of the Mari Lywd was a poem written by Vernon Watkins. It was called The Ballad of the Mari Lywd, and it was written in 1941.
Okay, a nice distraction from all of the war.
Yes. And Amanda, here's the beginning of the poem as a little Poetry Corner holiday gift to you, Amanda.
Thank you. A little treat.
I would read you the whole thing, but it's quite long. But I'm going to just read you the opening stanzas, the opening lines.
Okay.
Mari Lywd, horse of frost, star horse, and white horse of the sea, is carried to us. The dead return. Those exiles carry her, they who seem holy and have put on corruption, they who have seemed corrupt and have put on holiness. They strain against the door. They strain towards the fire which fosters and warms the living who have cast them out from their own fear of themselves into the outer loneliness of death, rejected them and cast them out forever. The living cringe and warm themselves at the fire, shrinking from that loneliness, that singleness of heart. The living are defended by the rich warmth of the flames, which keeps that loneliness out. Terrified, they hear the dead tapping at the panes. Then they rise up, armed with the warmth of firelight and the condition of scorn. It is New Year's night. Midnight is burning like a taper. In an hour, in less than an hour, it will be blown out. It is the moment of consciousness, the living moment, the dead moment. Listen.
Oh, baby. I would want to get outside and run around with a horse skull too after reading that.
So the whole poem is actually more of a performance. Like there's a narrator who reads this opening portion and it has like stage direction, has different characters. It's got the whole shebang.
Wow.
And to me personally, Amanda, like reading through this, I think this should be just as well known or just as adapted as, say, like A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, that sounds tight as hell.
Yeah, it really feels like that tradition of telling spooky or ghost stories around Christmas time. You know, this like dark time of the year where we're like, yes, death is upon us, but also we still live. We still sit by the fire and tell these stories and protect ourselves from the darkness outside.
Julia, it also reminds me a lot of, I think, a play, technically, that we read as like a vocal exercise in high school under Milkwood by Dylan Thomas, who was also Welsh.
Yeah, you know, it does kind of have that vibe. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and that was from the early 50s, but like those first couple of stanzas like really paint a picture in a very spooky and I think like complimentary way.
It is festive in a very spooky way, which I think is kind of the whole like Mari Lywd's vibe, you know? Like we're really kind of counterbalancing. There is a spooky death head skull outside who's singing at you, and also let's all party inside and enjoy the warmth of the fire.
That's kind of what the end of the year is, though, isn't it? Like that's what New Year's are all about. And whenever you celebrate them in the year, it's the death of the old and the welcoming in of the new, and one thing perishing for the other to flourish. And so it makes a lot of sense to me that death and life would be close in this way.
And that's something that I love about the Mari Lywd. And as much as we're making a big deal of the Mari Lywd, which admittedly having a hooded horse skull visit you around Christmas time, it's not unique in terms of hooded animal traditions across England and Wales.
Okay. Who else is there?
There's several others, Amanda. So the old horse is a Northern English tradition where a hobby horse that was part of like mummers plays would like come out and, do performances and stuff like that. Old Ball is also a hobby horse with a horse's skull from Northern England, specifically from Lancashire. But this tradition is most associated with Easter time rather than Christmas time.
Now, why do they have so many hobby horses lying around?
Amanda, this is very interesting. The hobby horse is kind of this like thing that during the 1600s, maybe 1500s, like I mentioned before, like when we first started getting like references to the Mari Lywd or something similar to these hooded horse skulls, this was a very classic thing that was used by jesters to entertain the wealthy and royal.
Okay.
And so these like adaptations of these hooded horse figures or these hooded animal figures in kind of these now community working class plays is a real like, I don't want to call it like trickle down economic sort of cultural thing, but rather
it's a cultural echo. Yeah.
Yes, it was a cultural echo, which is like, I think really, really interesting and really cool. As it falls out of favor with the rich and powerful, it becomes adapted to the culture of the working class.
And very Northern then in that way.
Exactly. So we got Old Horse, we got Old Ball. How about Old Tup, also known as the Derby Ram, which is from Derbyshire and Yorkshire, which was a goat or sheep skull rather than a horse skull. And Old Tup showing up at your door, expected rather than like a gift or to come and party inside, they would like money, please.
Nice.
So they would like do their whole thing and they'd be like, all right, pay us. And they would be like, I have no money. And they were like, all right, we're going to do the whole play again. They're like, all right. Finally, they were like, please leave. And they would pay them. And then the performers would mime the killing of the goat and then would leave.
Okay, great. Julia, this is just a modern adaptation. Like how on the Seder plate, we typically will have like, just like a lamb bone and not like a fresh hunk of like actual lamb. It symbolizes the ritual sacrifice of before while gesturing at it like they do here with this pantomime.
Yeah, my favorite part too is part of the old Tup troupe is always a character playing the butcher.
Oh no.
And he's the one that always kills old Tup.
Carries like a cardboard knife.
Kent has the hoodening, which is performed around Christmas time as well, which features another terrifying hooded horse skull. And interestingly, Amanda, in researching this, hoodening as a tradition was thought to have been extinct by World War I. But through the efforts of folklorists preserving the tradition, it actually saw a revitalization in the mid-20th century, which started incorporating the hoodening into modern folk traditions around Christmas time.
Right on. I know there's a lot of like yearning for the rural idle past, as we had poets like Thomas and Auden and others, kind of like reaching for what the memory of like England or Wales was like before the wars.
Yeah, and also this idea that a lot of those towns, unfortunately, like either were extremely diminished or completely wiped out because their entire like male population were killed during World War I.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of wild to think about that. But the fact that it was revitalized because it was preserved through folklorists and poets and stuff like that is extremely beautiful and extremely moving in my mind.
Also, Julia, do you know that Dylan Thomas just wrote Under Milkwood, then died? It was like the last thing he wrote, and then it was...
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh about that, but you're like, it was like his pen did the final swish, and then he went... Pfft.
I mean, that's what I'm getting, because it was aired the next year, because he had written it, and then they're like, and then they aired it on the radio.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Poor Dylan Thomas.
I guess, listen, if you grew up with a hooded animal tradition around some sort of holiday season, I want to hear about it. Please write into us.
Yes, I would love that. spiritspodcast@gmail.com.
And Amanda, just like, at the end of the day, I think the Wahi Lywd, all of these hooded animal traditions, humanity has always been a little bit scared of the upcoming winter. And having traditions around them, especially when they are lighthearted but a little spooky, just like the Wahi Lywd, it just makes sense, right?
I think it's a really good thing to do, and also a really good excuse to check on your neighbors and to see how people are doing, and whether you bring them some cookies that you have baked, or a little sprig of evergreen, or just a note wishing them well. I think that's a lovely way to channel some of the, I think, tendencies toward hibernation that at least I feel during the darkest and coldest times.
Yeah, it gives us a reason to celebrate. It gives us a reason to look around and bring together our community. And part of that is because together we can manage to get through this coldest and darkest time of the year. And we, for a little while, can forget about our mortality. We can celebrate with our friends and family. We can raise our voices in song, And of course, we get to have some drinks, which is always a plus.
I think it's great. And if you're a woodworker out there, let me challenge you. Make a wassail goblet and see if you can put that to use during your next party.
And definitely try to make the trick one with a bunch of different spouts.
Hilarious.
Listeners, conspirators, I hope that as you're getting ready for your holidays this season, whatever they may be, you find a little bit of sweetness, richness, and light in the darkest time of the year. Make sure to sing along with the Wahi Lywd while you're at it.
And worst case scenario, you can always claim you have a plumbing emergency that tends to let people leave right away.
Stay creepy while you do that.
Stay cool.
Later, Saders.